The judge in the Trayvon Martin shooting case is deciding whether to raise the bond for the defendant, George Zimmerman, just days after he was released from jail. It turns out Zimmerman has received more than $200,000 in donations on the internet, a fact he did reveal during his court hearing last week, and that has now prompted new legal wrangling. CNN's Martin Savage is following the case.
Wolf, it was another surprising day in the case of George Zimmerman. Last week, you may remember that George Zimmerman took the stand and apologized. This week, now comes the revelation of the fact that he has raised over $200,000 online. This at about the same time his attorney had been arguing that the family was indigent, broke, they had no money at all. As a result of this, the state of Florida has now come forward and said that the bond in this particular case should be raised, maybe raised significantly. The judge has three possible courses of action he could take. One is raise the bond, two is revoke the bond, or the third is don't do anything about the bond. Today he decided not to render any kind of decision because he simply says he doesn't have enough information. The judge wants to know where did the money come from, who had control of the money, and when. Until he has that information, well, he decided to hold off on any decision. After that hearing, Mark O'Mara, who's the attorney for George Zimmerman, tried to look on the bright side. He basically said, well, the newfound wealth does show one thing. George Zimmerman has a lot of support out there.
But I'm also quite happy that there were enough people out there who felt it in their hearts that they wanted to support somebody like George and have given that much money.
But Ben Crump, who is the attorney for Trayvon Martin's family, saw this money as indicating something else, that you simply cannot trust what George Zimmerman has to say.
He did not come forthright to the court when he understood completely what the court was inquiring about his financial status and his ability to pay a bond. And it went so far that his attorney inquired about that website. The special prosecutor's office inquired about that website over and over again, and they all wavered.
In fairness, we should point out that Trayvon Martin's family has also been raising money online. It is for a foundation that eventually will be used for advocacy work. So far, the family says they've raised about $100,000. Wolf?
All right, Martin Savage, thanks very much. Let's dig a little bit deeper right now with our senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin. What's your reaction? What do you think as far as this pretty surprising development is concerned?
It is a surprising development, and it's certainly embarrassing for the defense team here. I think the judge has done exactly the right thing because this is a somewhat unclear situation, at least to me, and I assume to the judge, which is who controls this money. I mean, presumably at some level George Zimmerman controls it, but actually how the mechanism works of actually extracting the $200,000, I think that's something the judge needs to look into. I do think that it's very likely he'll raise the bond, and I don't think the defense will have much of a problem with that. The worry is he'll get angry enough to revoke the bond and lock George Zimmerman up, and that would be a catastrophe for him.
Does it pass the smell test that the attorney would not have known about this going into this legal proceeding last week?
You know, I actually think it does pass the smell test. It's an unusual situation. Most lawyers aren't used to dealing with fundraising in this way. Mark O'Mara is a really experienced lawyer with a very good reputation. I don't think there would be any reason for him to know about this and simply lie to the court. I think he was probably a little careless in not finding out exactly how much money was involved and who had access to it. But I don't think it suggests some sort of sinister activity.
Jeffrey, thanks very much.